welcome back. This is Ashley with Brindle Babe Designs, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make the Knit Faux Fur Bag. Make sure you check out my blog, brindlebabe.com, where you can find the free pattern here as well as many other knit and crochet patterns. The ad-free printable PDF pattern is also available in my Etsy shop for a small price. I'll link all of this together in the description below. Let's get started. This project is a pretty simple project. It's great for beginners who don't know how to knit yet, and all you need to know is a little bit about sewing. So let's get into all of the materials. First off, you'll need scissors, 8mm knitting needles. They can be either the straight or the circular. And then you'll need needle and thread, a 9-inch zipper, and you want to get one that's going to be a little bit thicker on the edges here, just because we're going to be working with a thick yarn, so you don't want it to get caught in the zipper itself. And for the seaming, I'm going to be using a crochet hook. If you find a tapestry needle that has a large enough eye, you can use that as well, but I'll show you how I do that later on. You'll also need 1/4 of a yard of whatever your favorite fabric is. And then for the yarn, this is Lion Brand Gopher Faux, and you only need 1 skein for this. And one thing I didn't show here is that you will also need sewing pins or sewing clips for when we go ahead and add the zipper. Okay, so let's get started. We're gonna do a Longtail cast on, and you're gonna want to have a little bit extra long tail at the end. Just so you can do the seamings on the side. So do a little extra, like more than you think you'll need to pull out. So we're gonna do a slip knot. And then just go ahead and put that on your needle. Then I'm gonna show you how to cast on. The way that we cast on is you're going to hold your fingers like this, and you're going to put them in between the 2 strands of yarn. And then you're going to wrap them around your fingers like so to kind of make a V shape. And then we're going to take this first strand from our thumb here, and then we're going to take the first strand from our pointer finger and pull that strand through to make a loop. And then you just pull tight on your needle. So let me show you that again. First strand in front on your thumb, and go around and pull the front strand from your pointer finger and pull through. So it's pretty simple once you get it going. And we're going to go ahead and cast on 20 stitches. And once you get to the end here, it's going to look a little small, but it's going to grow once you knit more rows, and it's going to end up being a pretty stretchy fabric. Okay, and now we're going to go on to row number 1. And try and make sure you don't get your tail mixed in here, your long tail. So make sure you're using your working yarn. So let's just get that tail out of the way so we don't get confused. And so to start, you are going to move up all your stitches up to your needle, up to the end, and you're going to put your needle into the front of the stitch here. So you're going to go from the back in, and we're going to be doing the knit stitch, and this is going to be the only stitch you're going to be using for the whole thing. So let's go over that a little slowly. You're going to go from behind the stitch forward through the loop, and you're going to grab your working yarn, wrap around, pull it through that loop, and pull the whole thing off. It's really as simple as that. Sorry, I've gotten a little ahead of myself. Let me show you how I hold my yarn. I wrap it around my pinky, and then I bring the working yarn on the top of my pointer finger. I feel like this gives me the best comfortability and best consistent tension. There's a lot of different ways that you can hold your yarn, and you can research that on YouTube. There's many different ways, but this is the one that I found works best for me. So you just want to remember to go from the front to the back, wrap a loop around, pull it through, and then take it off your needle. If I'm going too fast here, just slow down the video or go back until you get it. It's really very simple. And I found that working with this yarn, it was a lot easier to knit than to crochet because your stitches are all on your needle so you can find them easily, but with crochet it was hard to find them, so that's why I chose knitting for this. And I think it's really a simple pattern. It's really easy, just uses one stitch, and you're just gonna go ahead and continue to work this stitch until your work is about 11 inches or so, because you want it to be about 11 by 11, so a square. So before you cast off here, you want to check to make sure your measurements are right. You want about 11 by 11. And this is a really stretchy fabric, so you can almost stretch it to size rather than work it to size, I guess. Alright, so next I'm going to show you how to do the cast off. So let me show you here on my sample. It's pretty simple. Sorry, I'm all tangled up over here. So you're just gonna do knit 1, knit 2, and then you're gonna pull that first loop over the second loop, like so. Sorry, it's a little wonky. I did it a little tight here, so you just want to make sure you're doing this really loosely or you're going to get some bunching at the end. And then to continue, you're just going to knit 1 and then pull the previous stitch over the stitch you just worked. Okay, now that you have finished your cast off, you want to make sure you leave a long tail here so that we can do the seaming on the other side. And if you end up being on an opposite row, just go ahead and attach a piece of yarn to seam off the opposite end. Alright, now that we've got our fabric, you're going to want to go ahead and iron it out, iron any creases or anything, and you just want to guesstimate the area you're going to need to iron out here. And then that way we're going to come back in and lay it out and measure it out and cut it, to size. Alrighty, so now that you've got your ironed piece, you want to just go ahead and cut it to size. Cut it a little excess, just like I did. I did kind of a lot of excess, just because it's better to have more than less. And so then we're gonna go on to setting it up for sewing. So you're gonna fold it in half, wrong side out. And you're going to want to fold in the top edges as well. So you may just want to go ahead and iron those out also. So you want to do about 1/2 inch here. And you can go ahead and do that for both sides. So once you've got your piece all ironed out, ready to sew, you can either use a sewing machine or you can hand sew it. This part's, I felt like, way easy just to do a sewing machine, but if you don't have one, definitely go ahead and hand sew it with the needle and thread. But for the fur piece here, you can't really use a sewing machine on this fabric here. It just does not work well with a sewing machine. So we're gonna go ahead and hand sew that part of it. Don't worry about your edges being real smooth here. It's going to be hidden anyways, and we can go ahead and trim them later. And I just like to leave a lot of room for myself here just in case for any mistakes. Once you've ironed up all the edges, you're going to go ahead and sew up the sides about 1/2 inch inward from what you measured, and then we're going to go on and add the zipper then. Okay, and I forgot to mention real quick, before you go ahead and sew up the edges, make sure you're pinning the sides so that you get a good even line. And now we're going to go ahead and measure it up to our fur piece just to see how everything lines up. And I definitely have a little extra here. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to have to cut off some excess on the ends here and also on the top. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut off our edges and all of our excess here. Okay, once you got it all measured out and good to go, you can go ahead and pin or clip your zipper to your piece of fabric. And if you have a zipper attachment for your sewing machine, then great. Otherwise, like what I did here, is I just hand sewed it all across on both sides here at the top. You just want to make sure here that you're not sewing it too close to the materials so that it snags. Alright, now that you've got your zipper all good and ready to go, Make sure the zipper part works good. We're gonna go on to seaming the edges of our fur material. And we're gonna go ahead and once we sew up the edges, we're gonna put our pouch on the inside and then sew everything together. I like to do it separately. If you'd like, you can do the zipper and the fur material attached to the actual material itself all together, but I found that was kind of difficult, so I did it one step at a time. So let's start on sewing up our ends. You're gonna fold your material in half. You're gonna grab your crochet hook and we're gonna go in between both sides. So you want to make sure you're getting at least like two bars, I guess you could say, 2 stitches on both sides, just so you have like a good secure seam on the edge. And for the first stitch, you're just gonna pull a loop through and you're just gonna do like a slip stitch all the way down. And you want to just make sure as you go down that everything is even and the edges aren't twisted to the side or like off center. And if you'd rather use a tapestry needle and just do like a whip stitch, then that works as well. Just make sure once you all the edges, there's no gaps or anything, because you don't want any weird open spaces. Okay, now we got our cute little pouch here. You're gonna put your fabric insert in and just mold it all to fit in there nicely. What we're going to do here is we're going to pin the edges and we'll sew the sides up. Make sure these little ends here are tucked into the edges. You don't want those sticking out. And I found here that sewing clips actually work a lot better than the pins, but I'm going to show you the way with the pins anyways. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pin the edges here. You want to make sure that your fur fabric isn't too close to your zipper or it's gonna get caught in your zipper. So just make sure you have like a good little space there in between. And I'm just gonna go ahead and pin straight through. This fabric together, it's all very thick, so it's hard to pin it the normal way. So this is where I feel like clips would help as well. And we're just going to go ahead and hand sew both sides once you got everything pinned up. And just make sure you get those edges there at the end all nice and snug down in there and sewn into the insert. And there you have it, the Knit Faux Fur Bag. I would love for you to tag me at Brindle Babe Designs in your makes. I'd love to see what you guys came up with. Make sure you check out my blog where I have more accessories you can add to this project, like a tassel or a palm. Thank you so much for following along. I would love it if you subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram. Thanks!